No,
it's not about that. But I will tell you, one thing I would frame it this way. Representative Kander points out, he and I have had this discussion for over a year, that the reality of it is that when you have multiple committees, then there's a temptation from legislators to pick up support here, but not ever admit or talk about it over there. And there's legal methodologies for doing that. It's legal. What Rex Singfield, his donations were perfectly legal. But I believe, and Representative Kander believes with me, that you should take the donation directly from who you're receiving support from. The public should be aware of it, and they should be judging you by that. I support stem cell research. I've taken in support from stem cell community. The general public deserves to know that, and if they feel like I'm not appropriate elected representative for their area, they can vote accordingly, just like my votes are on the record. That's what this is really about. And one of the hot topic issues between Democrats and Republicans are campaign finance limits. For me, particularly, I voted to remove the limits. I voted to remove them, one, because I believe philosophically you should be able to make whatever donation you want. But at the same time, I also felt I would be willing to step up and support legislation like this to eliminate the use of these committees so that whenever you're taking a large amount of support, it's known and it's directed. And the legislator admits it up front. And for me, if I receive support from a community, I need to be prepared to talk about that. And that's what this is really about. And I think we eliminate that. It makes the process more straightforward. It makes it more disclosed. And although there are legal methodologies for donating committees that can donate to other people, we would like to narrow that down so that we get more direct donations and more disclosure to the public on who and what we're getting support about.
And to add to that, in essence, your question is somewhat about campaign finance limits. And Representative Flook references it, and I think that really speaks to how bipartisan this bill is. I believe that campaign finance limits would be a vital part of ethics reform. Representative Flook and I don't completely see eye to eye on that issue, and that didn't stop us from sitting down and saying, well, what can we do to sort of satisfy both sides that believe that ethics reform is necessary and get us to the point where maybe we can get, maybe from my side that believes in campaign finance limits, maybe it'll open more people up on the Republican side to discussing them when we address these issues as well. I saw in the Independence Examiner, I think today, that Representative Duesenberg said that he would look favorably now possibly upon a bill for campaign finance limits. I'm a co-sponsor of Representative Lavota's bill to reimpose campaign finance limits. But I'm not going to allow my advocacy for campaign finance limits to keep Representative Flook and myself from getting a lot done this year as well.
Last year, we stood here around the same time of year, and there was another bipartisan ethics bill, and there was a bipartisan news conference proposing this ethics bill with some of the same information. There's quite a bit different in this bill. What's different in terms of getting such a bill through the legislature? Last year, the ethics bills went nowhere.
Well, are you talking about Representative Yates and Zimmerman?
Yeah, Yates and Zimmerman.
Okay, yeah. Well, Representative Yates will not be here. He's taking a job, so which gives me an opportunity to become involved. Well, I'll tell you what's different. Last year we had a lot of priorities we needed to move on. What has become different is that we've had incidents around the state. We have more people asking questions, and we've had a year of frankly debating these ideas on our own. What I would impress upon you as members of the media is to recognize is that just because a bill doesn't get out to the House floor doesn't mean we're not talking about it. Representative Kander and I have these kind of discussions amongst ourselves and others. We sit around here at night drinking coffee during the less sexy pieces of legislation. We sit back in the House lounge and we talk to each other, and we talk about common ground. And one of our concerns is that so much of the time, ethics legislation is always turned into campaign politics. And you cannot get anything legitimate off the ground because it's always being seen as trying to poke the other guy in the eye. My philosophical belief and Representative Kander's philosophical belief about owning up to who you're receiving support from has nothing to do with with anything else going on in the state. It's a philosophical belief. But by virtue of more questions being asked, we see an opportunity to put it back out there and rejuvenate it. We didn't want the efforts on the part of Representative Yates, Representative Zimmerman, that we certainly agreed on. We didn't want to see those down the line. And we wanted to make this effort. I mean, we're in communication with our leadership on both sides of the aisle on this bill. We think it's a good stepping off point to show that we're really going to try to resolve some things. We had incidents in St. Louis, we have incidents in Kansas City. You know, we want to make sure that the public understands that there are people down here working together, and that for the most part, we really are trying to do the right thing. And the best way to show that is just joining together and working on a bill.